Let's talk about everybody's favorite subject. Shame makes a man desert his lover. Shame. Hi, I'm Angel. Woo, we got some good lighting, don't we? Thanks for stopping by. Anyway, I am headed up to Colorado, and I'm about halfway through a long drive, so perhaps that is why I am thinking about shame. I doubt it. It's a topic that's prevalent in our culture, in our world. As a female, it's something that I run up against. I shouldn't say as a female, as a human being in a culture, as an individual who has done many things which our culture would say I should be ashamed of, feel shame over. It's a constant dance for me to rid myself of shame, to realize that shame is only, well, for one, that it's disempowering, has really no worth. I shouldn't say it has no worth. It has probably has a small place, but it's not, if you're hanging on to shame and letting it control you, then that's not good. To be judgmental about it for a minute. For me, I don't like to be controlled by shame, and when I find myself not acting or acting out of shame, I feel ashamed of myself. I don't like it, and so no, I'm learning that feeling ashamed of myself, that's kind of the very point. That doesn't help, does it? That just adds more shame to the fire. Ooh, I crack myself up sometimes. Anyway, it doesn't help to shame yourself for not being your full, true, genuine, authentically acting self because of shame. We all have it. We have different triggers. Learning to recognize kind of where your shame is rooted and maybe uproot it. Maybe just learn, there's different strategies, and I recommend trying more than one and seeing what works for you when. For me, sometimes I avoid a trigger if I can. Sometimes if I'm already triggered, I try to get through it as quick as possible, or sometimes I just dive into it and like a wrecking ball come out the other side and pick up the pieces afterwards. That's not my recommended favorite strategy, but it is one I have tried. I'd love to know if you got some recommendations for some strategies for forgetting what you're saying in the middle of saying it, and also for hold please, for dealing with shame, the feelings of shame that come around due to familial patterns, societal patterns, personal beliefs, which come from those usually. Me personally, I'm changing my beliefs in a lot of cases. I learned that my brain is plastic, so is my body largely, and that I can make a lot more changes than I originally thought. I think when I was younger, and I think that's increasingly so all the time as we create new technology to help us with that. So. There's really no excuse for being a way that you don't want to be if you realize you don't want to be that way. Now, if you love the way you are, awesome. Me, I had some negative thinking patterns that were holding me back, and I had and still have some of those patterns. I had some shame patterns. I'm still kind of sifting through those, and I imagine it's not something I'll be finished with one day. Maybe I will be in that. Already I'm kind of finished with wallowing in, reflecting on a lot of those things. I deal with them when they come up, and that seems like a good time to deal with them. And then the rest of the time I move forward. I move forward anyway, but I try not to shirk away from those shadows, those traumas, those shameful things that come to mind come up, in my life. However, I also try not to give them power by really feeling ashamed, and I think stuffing them away, hiding from them is one way to give them power, and also, talking about how much they victimized us is another way of giving them power, and I don't like to do either of those. I acknowledge that I have felt shame and that I probably will again, and that I've done things that society deems shameful and that I'm not ashamed of, and I've done things that I felt ashamed of, and some of those things I probably would still feel shameful about, and others I feel differently about now. So I think it's important to remember that shame is really just like a result of the story we're telling ourselves and each other, and that is transformable. That's what I got to say about that. I'd love to know what you think about all of that, if you care to share. As always, you can find lots of links to ways to support me and ways to connect with me in the description below. And until next time, I wish you peace, prosperity, positivity, and playfulness.